Yeah, so as I stated, I wanted to just say welcome to everyone. This is a simulcast. That is, I'm IG Live and recording this for the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast. I just want to chat it up with you all and get the energy and the vibe from everybody in the room. And I give thanks for the opportunity to be working this technology. Hey, Kimmy, good to see you, darling. We missed you at the beach ceremony. Oh, it was so awesome. It was just awesome. So, for those of you listening and you may not be aware, Crystal John had her annual beach trip, and I facilitated the Water Circle this year. A Water Circle is a Mama Yoga branded, workshop that I produce as well as facilitate for the sestrin. Brothers can attend as well because brothers need to balance their water as well. And so we, went to the beach and we gathered with love and high energy expectations, and we had the water circle at the beach. So what the intention is to keep the water circle going, because that's the message that's been put on my heart, is to, keep these water circles going, because the water energy is akin to the spirit moving in a very fluid and flowing type of manner. And so, as I was sharing with them at the beach, it's not our fire so much that's out of place. Especially for the female energy, the water is out of place. Like, women are the keepers of water, and so, we need to learn how to function and how to increase that vibration within our flow. So we had a wonderful time sharing with each other, and then we sat and ate with each other. The weather was very windy on Saturday, and cooler than what you wanted to be at the beach, but we were all blanketed up. If you go on my Instagram and look at the posts, or go on Zola's page, Crystal John, and look at the posts, you'll see everybody got their nice fleece sweaters on and blankets, and everybody's layered. It was really lovely though. And then the surprising thing was, we went into the water and the water was so warm. That water was like 75 degrees. It was warm. And so some people even actually came prepared, and they, they took their clothes off and had their bathing suit on under it and got actually in the water and was out, in the ocean riding the waves. It was beautiful. The food was on point. And then, the sisters and brothers that gathered, it was a very generous and sharing spirit. So that was the Crystal John annual beach trip. And so this Saturday coming up will be the Crystal John Philly Equinox Fest. And we're expecting that to be no less nourishing and wonderful as well. So if you're in the area, come through. It's going to be at the One Art. There's posts in my IG as well as Crystal John's IG. You can get to it. You can purchase your tickets via a link on my IG as well as Crystal John's. And we just, celebrating and sharing the love with everybody. Let me take time to say hello to everybody. Psychic Ancestor, what's up? Peace. Love that. And of course, yes, Kimmy, there's the cleansing winds. Let me tell you something though, honey. Saturday, people had sand in their eye wells, honey. Like if you had cream on your face, the sand, the wind was very, strong, so the sand was sticking to people's face in the eye wells and everything. We was like, look, we can't open no food out here. We'll have to go up to the on the boardwalk where, the buildings block the wind. So it was lovely nonetheless. It was just lovely nonetheless. Yeah. So what I want to share with you today, during this talk, as we move through this energy of 2020, right? Wait a minute. I can't even start my talk because, Kimmy, you talk about the when the sand was exfoliating. Oh, yes, it was exfoliating. We was doing all kind of cleansing out there at the beach, right? Y'all in the podcast world just bear with me here because, we flowing on IG. Right. So during this COVID time that we're in, this 2020, I should say, and all of its upheavals and eruptive dynamics and scenarios, the fight for justice, which for us never stops since the day that they stole us from the shores, and by all accounts, wrestled us on this shores as well. We've been fighting for justice. We've been, doing what we can in our various lanes to mitigate as best we can these unjust, savage behaviors, right? So we have those eruptions that happened in 2020. We've lost some of, from a spiritual perspective, I can't say lost, right? But we have, we feel a sense of heaviness from the transition of several icons that have passed this year. Kobe Bryant and Chadwick Boseman, just to name a couple. There were several. Locally, we lost in the Philadelphia region, mama icon, Sister Okosawa Sabri, who is the founder or who put on for years, she and her family put on for years the Locks Conference, the Philadelphia Locks Conference. She transitioned this year. In this area, the Trenton, New Jersey area, another, icon, Mother Energy, Sister Grace Crosland. She raised at least three generations of children in Trenton. Everybody knew Mama Grace, and she transitioned. So we've had some, feeling the weight of some of our elders and loved ones that have transitioned, our cultural icons and communal, personal, local icons as well. So we're feeling the weight of that. Looking at, the literal onslaught of our people being, shot down and murdered in the streets, by these savage ass, individuals that are partaking in this type of behavior. We, have had to deal with the lack of leadership in the governing bodies for this country. That's relevant. It's relevant to all of us. You could say, well, they ain't for us, and, we got to have our own ... Well, we're living on a land that has a governance. And that governance behavior is relevant to what happens in our lives. It just is, right? So we've been dealing with the lack of excellence and leadership, an example of, a sanguine personality for leadership. We are dealing with that in this 2020 more so. It seems to be heightened, not understanding science and all of the rest of the foolishness that's going on at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, right? We're dealing with that. So in the middle of all of that, there has been for the last 7 years or 8 years a vibrational uptick because the energy has changed, right? The energy has changed from the past 2,000 years being a martially dominated time period. And now the energy it cocooned and now is coming out of the chrysalis, the cocooning process, and it's the divine feminine energy. With that energy comes an interest in such spiritual arts as yoga and meditation and juju practices and root work and, spell casting and, herbal remedy concoctions and all of these types of, spiritual art practices, right, are coming forward and is in a heightened state because it is a manifestation of the lowest hanging fruit of the divine feminine's presence. In spiritual culture, we say, once you become conscious to your spiritual, consciously intending to walk your spiritual evolution, the first doorways are always the low-hanging fruit. It is the sensual. It is, the visceral. It is, the emotional. It is, what the magical gymnastics that are exciting and attractive. All of that's low-hanging fruit. It's relevant and it's great skills to have, but it's not the pinnacle of the divine feminine energy. Just like war is not the pinnacle of divine masculine, right? That's the lowest possible vibration. Just like sex, intercourse, is not the pinnacle of a loving relationship, right? It's low-hanging fruit. It's the easiest, most quickest thing we could do. Hopefully not that quick. Oh, Lord. Okay, get it together, mama. It's the lowest, quickest thing we could do. But the pinnacle of a loving mate relationship is a symbiotic oneness, loving, meiotic friendship and care for one another. That's the pinnacle. So ushering through moving through this divine goddess presence energy on the planet, we hitting all the low vibrating manifestations first. That's just what happens, right? You go through all of the physicality of manifestations first. I say that to say because I and other, metaphysicians who've been at this a long time, maybe not that long, but 25 years of, a life is a long time to be studying something and practicing and trial and error and trying to work it out and doing what you can about it, right? Learning and apprenticing is a long time, 25, 30 years for a lifetime, in a lifetime. We are getting word that there are all of these nefarious practices cloaked in spiritual arts. Now, ain't nothing new about that. That's been happening since the beginning of time, People get a base level understanding and their own ego leads the way. Their own ego navigates and is driving these practices and, these desires that they have manifesting, right? So I just wanted to share with you all listening, particularly the women, the females. You don't need to sign no lifetime contract or lifetimes incarnations contract with nobody that's holding these circles. You have to be careful of that kind of thing, right? Spiritual arts is like baking a cake on a low, a low energy level. You take some bush, you take some vibration, you take a certain time of the month and the moon, get the moon involved, the moon's energy, and you stir it all up and you cast. That's the lowest vibration. So my caveat to you all listening is to vet these dynamics as much as you can. Don't just turn your energy over to some group or some people or some, clique that's doing juju, that's doing spiritual work, spiritual arts based work, right? You need to slow your roll, step back, and make sure that the character is congruent with the work that they're doing on a high level. Make sure that their character, that the person's energy and their manifestations, their behavioral patterns are as congruent with good, wise, intelligent, loving movement as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. Ain't nobody perfect, right? Nobody is walking in perfection. Not even those that have manifested, themselves at a high spiritual level, known as sages and teachers and divine leaders and gurus and all this, right? Nobody is, if you in this flesh and body, you got challenges, right? They may be more adept at maneuvering and navigating their life's challenges, but everybody has them. Everybody makes errors, and everybody, has things that they need to adjust. But you want to make sure that when you open your spirit, when you open your energy to a receptive level, that you know as best you can who you are given that permission to. Because when you open up your spirit for people to work in a spiritual capacity, in a juju capacity, in a ritualistic capacity, you are turning over a most precious energy base for that person. And you have to be careful because it can become vampiric, right? The vampire is not this guy who can't go out in the daytime and come in the night, he's sleeping in a coffin and he's sucking on your blood and all this. That ain't a vampire. Although, I don't know where the Sylvanias are. You know what I'm saying? The movies have spoiled us. Vampiric energy feeds off of your energy. And when you open your spirit up to people that don't have their own shit together, yes, I'm using the language, tag it explicit. They don't have their own sensual, visceral, emotional, animalistic traits and behaviors in check, then that opens you up for all kinds of abuse and cult-like manifestations. Not occult, but cult-like. Where when I first came into my spiritual way of life, the ancestors that walk with me, I like to call them my ancestral entourage, right? The ancestors that walk with me, sat down when I was in a meditation and said to me, listen, you have to always remember that you should never fear God over man. If we put something on your heart, and you know it's the right thing to do based on the divination, based on the oracle reading, based on the dreams that are coming to you, based on the inner knowing that you are cultivating a greater understanding for, then do what we put on your heart. Don't fear man over God. So that's the message I want to share with you all. There's a lot of movement and a lot of energy of people practicing all of these occult arts, all of these spiritual arts. But if a person is not intentionally working on their own character, their own capacity to keep the animalistic behaviors in check, right? To subdue their own animalistic urges and desires and ways of thinking and behaviors, then the spiritual arts, the occult arts that they are practicing are going to be led by those animalistic behaviors. And this is where you get people, who, are a part of various organizations or groups or sets where they just doing some really not so cool type stuff. If the dynamics don't respect and exalt the vibration of women, you have to rethink that. If the dynamics, the group, the organization, the clique, the set is doing a lot of, mind-altering substances, you got to rethink that. You just do. I know people don't like it when I say that, but the reality is, the studies are in. The reality is in. When you take mind-altering substances, be it weed, be it drinking, whatever it is, you affect the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is where your highest faculties reign from. Your capacity for intuition, your capacity for high meditative states, your capacity to know what is right, to act on what is right and what is wrong. The prefrontal cortex is the youngest part of the human brain, and it is nicknamed the God Center. So all of these substances attack and diminish the brain matter in the prefrontal cortex. Sugar's a big one too. Eating a lot of sweets. It damages the prefrontal cortex as well. Now, I'm not saying you can't recreation and enjoy yourself in that way. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's like a wake and bake type of club you in, you have to rethink that if you're talking about cultivating spiritual arts, right? If it's a mandatory, not mandatory, but it's kind of like auto-suggested that you got to get down with whatever is being passed around, you have to rethink that gathering. You just do. I'm not saying don't do it. Do what you want. Y'all are all listening to the sound of my voice. You have free will. You can flow how you want to flow. You have free will. But I'm just talking about the difference between the low-hanging fruit in the spiritual arts world and the quest towards high character, high morality, functioning from the prefrontal cortex instead of the reptilian brain. I'm going to say that again. Functioning from the prefrontal cortex instead of the reptilian and the mammalian brains, right? These are the brains within us that are about the sensualism, that are about the visceral, emotional, the serpentine effect and feeling of our experiences. So my suggestion is that you vet people, watch them before you just open up your spirit and turn your energy over to the shenanigans and the goings on. Vet them. And I'm going to say, hey, I've said this publicly many a times. I'm so thankful to my ancestors and my ancestral lineage for, me studying all those years at the feet of Dr. Ra'u Nefer Amen, Shechem or Shechem of the Osiris Set Society. Because even though his methodology is slower than a lot of us would like for it to be, It's the sure and slow and steady wins the race. It's the cultivate your character. Cultivate your capacity for high morality. Then move to the juju. Use the juju to subdue those animal impulses and instincts, animal impulses and behaviors within you that otherwise using the spiritual arts will cause you to hurt yourself and others. First, cultivate your highest character energy and do the best you can. Nobody's looking for perfection. Perfection is a fool's errand. There's no perfection in the world. Nothing is perfect. God can make an oak tree that will grow 7 stories tall, and it'll still have bumps and lumps and bruises. It'll be non-perfect in its perfection. Right? So, with that type of training, that level of training, where it has to be about your character before anything else. That then informs the way in which those arts manifest. That then informs the way in which, the level in which you can help people and you can be of service to people. Because your heart, you're working on your own ish. You're working on your own spiritual cultivation, starting with the low-hanging fruit, which is your character and your animalistic responses and behaviors. It's powerful. So we're understanding that a lot of that is people just skipping all over that step. And they got the recipes to how to do this, that, and the third. And they putting it all together and poof, voila. It's indiscriminate. It's like magic. It's going to work. It is magic. It's going to work. But to the degree that you open your spirit up is whether or not you get hurt from the experience or end up hurting other people, or you get elevated by the experience. So y'all be careful out there. Take your time. It's okay. Take your time. Find out what your life's purpose is and then try to flow in that way. If you come across a group or organization and your spirit resonates, that little quiet voice, every one of us has that little quiet voice that is the guiding, is your ancestral entourage, is your guardian angel, whatever moniker or words you want to use, is the deities walking with you, is the Orisha, hey, trying to talk to you about something. That little quiet divine voice and the signs around, they'll let you know. But you don't have to rush and jump into nothing. If somebody's demanding your blood, sweat, and tears, and they are behaving in a way, well, I don't think nobody should be demanding your blood, sweat, and tears anyhow. But if they are, and they're behaving in a way that's not congruent with good character, you can't turn your energy over to them. Yeah? So be careful and be patient enough to observe and to, gain understanding about who it is you're connecting to. If the message is angry, the outcome, it will be angry. If the message is loving and seeking balance, then the outcome most likely will be loving and seeking balance. So take your time. It's inevitable. The divine feminine is here. She showed up 2011, solidified 2012, and she's here, right? So we're just moving through this low-hanging fruit of all these visceral, emotional, and sensual expressions of her manifestation. right? But the fruit that's high up on the tree is wisdom, is compassion, is moving from a center of love, is elevating your character and your sensibilities, is showing empathy and caring and love for energy for the next being, right? Is not taking what you don't deserve, is given an even exchange for value. That's high. That's the high manifestation. It's you caring for, and you caring for me, and I'm caring for you. And we're in a value exchange that is based on love, caring, and, our mutual success. One of my favorite quotes that I use all the time is that if you win and I'm winning, your success is my success, right? Even if we don't agree on, other principles or sensibilities, you win and I'm winning. You winning in a good way, I'm winning. You winning in a way that doesn't harm people, that's not, causing further drama and trauma to people's energies, I'm winning. Oftentimes when an individual is hurt, they're still in that vibration, so they attract that to them. So that makes you vulnerable to these people out here practicing these spiritual arts that ain't working on their character. Take your time, take a step back, right? There is no greater work. No one can do for you what you need to do for yourself in terms of working on your own character building. People can inspire you. People can show you the blueprint or the path. People can mentor you. Excuse me. But nobody can do the work. You have to do your own work. So if you're wounded, if you're suffering from some traumatic experiences, that is not the time to go out here and be finding these groups and opening your energy up, because you're still vibrating in that trauma. You got to deal with that first. You got to just work on your own self-healing and self-love and self-care. Do some virtual stuff. And then vet them too. But you got to step, very gently. The I Ching says the fox steps lightly across the frozen pond to listening for the cracks in the pond. You got to step like that. If you have some, tender trauma that you're still working through, because your vibration is stuck there. It could be stuck there. And then you will attract more trauma. And that opens you up to these nefarious folks out here. Cloaked in, I'm doing spiritual work, I'm doing healing work or whatever, right? My circle is very small, right? From this training, from my years of training, and, my, just my own way that I do things, I'm a public figure. Mama Yoga is a public person. But Samut has a very small circle. There's only certain people that I go to for body work. And I've been like that since I was, even before I found my spiritual path and calling. Only certain people could be in my hair. That's just an old Southern woman's thing. So I was raised up like that in my house, You only ate certain people's food. So I carried that over into the spiritual work and into the spiritual communities. I'm not going to everybody's bembe. I'm not going to, everybody's, rituals and their, Orisha and deity ceremonies. That's just not my flow. My circle is small. As I say, Mama Yoga Wellness is public. That's a public figure. That's a public energy, right? In a serving capacity. But Samut Angela, my circle is like this big. There's only certain people I'm going to for body work. I'm not getting a massage with everybody, just not doing it. Don't do that. I don't go, you're not going to find me, at everybody's gatherings and all this kind of thing. I just don't flow that way. Not that I'm saying that a majority of people have nefarious or negative intentions, but I am a priestess. Small circle, big circle, public figure or not, I am a priestess. That's my life destiny. So I can't be out here at all kind of stuff where people drinking and smoking and hooping it up and everything. I can't be at every kind of thing. I send love and energy, but I just cannot be. So you too, I'm suggesting that you set certain standards for yourself. It's self-care in terms of, what energies that you allow yourself to be connected to as you move on your spiritual journey, as you move through the yogic space, as you move through the meditative space, as you move through the crystal, and, the sage and smudging and all of that, as you move through the recipes for creating spells and casting and all that. Move with intention. Move like the fox walking across a frozen lake. With each step, listen for the crack. And make sure that who you're aligning yourself with, their character they are working on raising their character, and their intention is love-based. When I say we, is the brothers and sisters in my spiritual circle, my sister and brethren. We've been chatting. We had a call a couple of days ago, and we were talking about, other people coming to us, sharing these connections that they've made in the spiritual communities where, people are just behaving in a way that it's just terrible. Right? So, those of us with a certain calling on our heart, we can't be quiet and just sit down and we just leave them to the wolves. So we have to just come out and share our wares. We have to share our training. We have to share our knowledge. We have to share whatever level of wisdom we have, whatever level. As long as it's based in love. We have to share that, because then we leave the path, we leave people to those that, are not cultivating their highest character and their highest manifestation. Yeah. So as I said, this is a simulcast. I'm on Instagram as well as recording this for the podcast world. What's up, podcast world? Mind, body, energy, and balance people. We love y'all out there. Guess what, everybody? I just was picked up by Spotify. Yay! I will put a post up about it tomorrow or Friday. But my Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance is now on Spotify. You can go to Spotify, check it out, and it's all good. We appreciate that tremendously, that we just got picked up by Spotify. Come on here. Y'all give me some yays or whatever. I need one of those, applause buttons. Oh, look at all those hearts on IG. Yay, hearts. Yay. So listen, that's my talk for this evening. Like I said, I want to reach out to you all. Thank you all so much for coming on and listening to me chat with you. Share this IG story if you can, or tag some people in the comments, because I know that this message is for somebody, right? And in the podcast world, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts as well. And leave us a review to what you think about the show. And we thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for listening, everybody. Y'all be safe, and hopefully I'll see you down this weekend at the Philly Crystal John Philly Equinox Fest. If not, we got several other events going, and as soon as we find a agreeable and high vibrating venue, we're going to share the Water Circle schedule with you as well. Okay? Thank you so much for listening. Please always remember, people, when they forget what you do, they may forget what you say, but they will never forget how you make them feel. Thanks so much for listening. Peace and love. Hey, thanks for listening to the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and thank you so much for listening to the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast.